chef Kerry Sears, who I think he's actually in the UK now, but at the time he was in Seattle, and he talked about how even when he's on a plane, he will draw out images
Mm.
of what he would like a plate to look like, with the protein source, starch, and then a vegetable probably. And I remember just thinking they're so immersed. And then I think about these critics and how they can just eviscerate these chefs, with a stroke of their pen. And I just thought, what would it take for a chef to be really angry enough to do away with a critic?
Welcome to the True Fiction Project, a podcast series that explores the origins of fiction. Every week, we begin with an interview, nonfiction, followed by a creative piece, fiction, inspired by something from the interview. The idea is to demonstrate, of course, that fiction is born out of our life experiences. Now, here's your host, storyteller, author, public speaker, health and wellness expert, Reenita Hora.
Welcome to the True Fiction Project. I am your host, Reenita Hora, your home for stories, your storyteller den, as I say. And I have with me today a storyteller based between Arizona and Washington. She writes from both places. Her name is Lori Pollard-Johnson. And she's had several books out, but she has 2 books out this year. Corpse in the Craftsman Cottage came out in May, and then a reprint of A Toxic Tort will come out in a few months. So let's introduce her immediately. Hi, Lori. Welcome to the True Fiction
Hello.
Project.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Great to have you here, and you've been busy. You're not
Yes.
stopping at anything, huh?
No, I just keep going.
You just keep going. And mystery, all mystery, cozy mystery. Tell us about your writing style, your genres, what you do, what it is that's keeping you so busy.
Sure. Well, I got my start actually in periodicals. So I wrote a lot of food and wine articles, family, a lot of accessibility too. I was very interested in sort of knowing how the Puget Sound area was representing for people who needed access to places in non-traditional ways, we'll put it that way, universal design. And then as I got going, I sort of started getting some ideas for fiction. And I did 2 children's mid-grade novels. Both were accepted for Accelerated Reader, which is a computerized program in the schools. And then I started getting interested in writing fiction for adults. And I wrote a cozy culinary mystery. And then I followed that with a couple of YAs, one of which got published, one of which was not. I think all writers have a drawer or a disk or a flash drive now, I guess, of stories that didn't quite make it, but at some point, maybe so. Who knows? And then, of course, these 2 books that are coming out this year through Wild Rose Press.
What is a culinary cozy mystery? Firstly, what's a cozy mystery? I mean, I think I know. You can tell me I'm totally wrong, but it always takes place in a small town. It usually takes place in a tea shop. Am I on point or
Yeah,
making stuff
there's
up?
a lot of different it takes a lot of forms, and I think that the more well-known series are actually set in, some place that's cozy, like a little restaurant or a donut shop or a candy shop or, like you say, a tea shop, but they usually have some thematic, like a business of sorts. In my book, there actually is a little bit different. It's kind of a genre blending because got elements of women's fiction in there as well, because the story does have 2 protagonists, but one is the main character basically, and they're best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have opened up a little business flipping houses, which is the only thing they really know how to do. They've been supporting their spouses who had this business before they got divorced. But a cozy really has to do with how much, I guess, blood is on the page.
Okay.
A cozy mystery, the violence takes place off page. So there's a dead body or some kind of a mystery, because it doesn't have to be a death. It could be a stranger who comes into the family. Megan Abbott does a good job with some of those kinds of stories. But usually there's a dead body, but you don't get attached to the dead body and you don't see them being taken out, so to speak. And that works for me because I really am not, I don't really think violence is very entertaining, to be honest.
Okay. So there's reference to the dead body, but there's no blood on the page,
Mhm.
so to speak.
Yes. And in a culinary
Mm.
mystery, there's elements of cooking. Now, my toxic tort does not have recipes, which a lot of culinary cozies do, but mine basically, it actually stemmed from having worked so much in the food and wine industry, profiling chefs and profiling the things that they do and their restaurants as well. And what I discovered from working with these chefs and meeting them and learning about them is that they're incredibly kind people. They're incredibly generous with their time. They are the ones that really, make it,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
guess the right way to say it. But they live, eat, and sleep food. And one of them, I remember telling me, Chef Kerry Sears, who I think he's actually in the UK now, but at the time he was in Seattle, and he talked about how even when he's on a plane, he will draw out images
Mm.
of what he would like a plate to look like, with the protein source, a starch, and then a vegetable probably. And I remember just thinking they're so immersed. And then I think about these critics and how they can just eviscerate these chefs, with a stroke of their
Yes.
pen.
Oh my God.
And I just thought, what would it take for a chef to be really angry enough to do away with a critic, especially one who is especially caustic and doesn't seem to have the right frame of mind, not a love of food, which is driving their interest in food criticism, but maybe something ulterior, which of course
Something else,
my guy
but
in toxic tort.
something ulterior, but not too outlandish. No fried green tomatoes type situation in
Oh
cozy
no.
mysteries. Okay.
No, but I love that reference. I love that movie.
Yes,
But
yes.
the relationship, interestingly enough, the relationship between the two main female characters in Fried Green Tomatoes is very reminiscent of the characters in Corpse in the Craftsman Cottage.
Oh.
They are very much, they've made the decision, since they're both divorced and raising
Mm-hmm.
children, that they're going to be each other's person. Regardless of what
I
happens, if
see.
men come into their lives, if they get married, they're going to be there for each other for the rest of their lives.
Mm.
And I like that idea. I love the idea of sisterhood, and I really wanted to incorporate that in the book.
Mm, yes, absolutely. Especially in this day and age, I should say, where you got a
Mm.
55% divorce rate, you really do need to find that other person, like you said.
Yes.
So
Oh, yes.
I don't know about fiction following fact. Yes, it does, but I think fact also follows fiction. So good on you for doing that.
Yeah.
So tell us about the Craftsman Cottage and what led up to this story.
Sure. Well, I was thinking about that and thinking about the different elements of it and what maybe stemmed from real life. And there's actually a couple different things. There is, of course, the sisterhood, and that kind of comes from it, and that's something that's very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've always treasured relationships with women who are really supportive of each other. But there's a couple things. One is, and you'll meet Moxie, which is the little dog. It's their mascot for their business, little Moxie. And Moxie is a 10-year-old Chinese crested, which I don't know if you're familiar with those dogs, but they often win the ugliest dog contest
Oh,
because as they
oh
age, they
dear.
lose their teeth, their tongue hangs out from one side because the teeth aren't there to hold it in, and they lose their hair. And yeah, at any rate, but Moxie, the inspiration for Moxie actually came from a dog that my husband and I adopted from the animal shelter many years ago,
Mm, mhm.
and we only had him for about 3 years because at the time that we adopted him, he was over 10 years old. And at our Humane Society, any dogs that are over 10 years old, of course, are very difficult to
Yes.
adopt out. So they mark them half price.
Oh my gosh.
and and what we
Humane
always say is that we
Society.
kind of got
Okay.
you get what you pay for, because this dog was, this was a challenging dog. He, unfortunately, we did not find out until after we had adopted him, and actually had gotten his vet check, that his teeth were really had a lot of problems. So we had to get all the teeth taken out, leaving him with very few, and as a result he could only have soft food, and that caused intestinal stuff. Then we had to put him in a diaper. We gave him a good last 3 years, let's put it that way. But in the book, Moxie is very much Seamus. That was the name of we gave
Mm,
Seamus.
mm. Okay.
And Moxie is a little bit of like a humorous element, but he's also very much a safeguard or a barrier between the women and sort of the outside elements that maybe are threatening
Mm-hmm.
their goals.
Mm.
So that's one way that true life sort of wiggled into the book.
Okay. And is that the part or that a part that you are going to read for us today? about Moxie?
Yes,
Yes.
Moxie will show up in the first chapter.
Moxie will show up in the first chapter. So before we segue, though, Lori, let our listeners know where they can find you online, offline, whatever you would like to share.
Sure. Well, I'm on Instagram and Twitter, but I really wanted to create kind of a page. And so instead of doing a website, I decided to and create content that maybe people are interested, maybe not. I decided to do a dedicated Facebook page. So it's Lori Pollard-Johnson Books. And I also, of course, my personal page, which is Lori Pollard-Johnson. So be sure you look for the right one. But in terms of getting them, you can get them. The Wild Rose Press does both print and ebooks. And so, of course, Amazon is where a lot of people go first, and it is available there. But it's also available at the Wild Rose Press website itself. You just Google in or type it in Corpse in the Craftsman Cottage. It'll come up with all the various different places that you could get it, including, of course, print.
Fantastic. Well, I cannot wait. Okay, so let's hear about Moxie.
And now to the premise of the True Fiction Project, which of course is to create fiction out of nonfiction.
Cozy 1920s craftsman cutie with peekaboo view. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. Remodel includes cedar closet, large pantry off kitchen, and detached garage. Great starter or investment property. Huge price reduction. Motivated owner. Call Sam at Rainier Mountain Realty. A man's pale, nearly translucent blue irises stared at me from within the coffin-sized aquarium inside the closet. Technically, he wasn't looking at me or my newly destroyed tutti frutti pink manicure. No, he was clearly dead. Had been for some time, but his eyes were wide open, his expression steely through the murky water, and the spider web of fine silver hair around his face suggested he'd been old when he died. I responded the way any normal woman would. I shrieked and jumped back, nearly tripping over the shards of 70s era fake cedar paneling I'd stripped from the closet mere moments ago. Scrambling backward, my spine slammed against the far wall. I slid to the floor with a thud. Clutching the dust mask from my mouth, I gasped, filling my lungs with chemical-laden air. I coughed, sneezed twice, then coughed some more, long esophageal shaking hacks. My heart thundered in my chest and pounded in my ears. My stomach threatened rebellion. Despite my brain screaming, "Run!" my legs froze, knees locked. I blinked hard several times, willing my breath and pulse to slow, hoping the corpse would disappear. Slowly I raised my head and focused my vision. No dice. Suspended in a cloud of what I had to assume were flecks of his own skin, the corpse lay in a loose beetle curl, motionless. I took a cautious sniff. Yep, the subtle scent my best friend and business partner Pam and I had noticed when we first looked at the house had matured into a complete stinkfest. At the time, we assumed a strong household cleanser and good old-fashioned elbow grease would rinse it away. We were wrong. No amount of Lysol could remove this guy.
No amount of Lysol could remove this guy. Wow. Makes me think of okay, Lysol I guess would do the I'm looking at sort of my packet of Lysol right across here. I'm like, would that do the trick? Lori, thank you so much. I cannot wait to hear more. So once we hit that paid subscribers button. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us on the True Fiction Project and good luck with the books.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed being here.
And it's been a pleasure to have you. That's Lori Pollard-Johnson. She was reading from her new book, Corpse in the Craftsman Cottage. And she was our guest today on the True Fiction Project, where I am your host, Reenita Hora.